Last time on Nickelodeon All Star Brawl.
When the trailer for this game first popped up on my YouTube feed, I was so excited. I already liked Super Smash Bros, but now I'll be able to play with my favorite Nickelodeon characters. With the passionate and open creators, gameplay, roster, and music, this game is practically perfect. But what is missing that makes it not completely perfect? I'd imagine that saying this game is almost perfect is quite a statement, so I'll explain the benefits of this game first. If you'd like to skip to the issues I have with the game, you can skip to this timestamp. Nickelodeon All Star Brawl was developed by Ludosity. When I heard that the people behind this company worked on several Super Smash Bros. Like projects, it made me even more excited for the game. This is because they already know how to make fun platforming fighting games, so I was glad not to worry about the game being fun to play. I moved forward knowing that this game was in the right hands. But that was not all. Throughout the developmental stages of Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, Ludosity have shown themselves to be very passionate and open about the game. They constantly let us in the loop, even after the game was released. It was always intriguing to see all the references they included into each character while making their moveset viable for combat. You could tell that they knew these cartoons, or at the very least did their research. The characters' costumes even had references that are so obscure that I didn't even know about them. I hope all the fans of these shows feel like their favorite characters were represented well. I know I have. Speaking of the roster, I think the roster was chosen very well. No series feels too overrepresented, and if they are, it is because of their star power. There are also many inspired picks littered throughout the roster, such as Helga and Reptar. They are excellent representatives of their shows and provide something unique to the roster. Helga is a glass cannon, while Reptar is one of the few heavyweight characters in the game. These picks might seem puzzling, but it's not like Arnold's going to be out here beating people up, unless you include the time you learn karate. As for Rugrats, who would want to hurt this face? Some people may argue that the roster is really 90s heavy, and honestly, that is the best part for me. All of my favorite Nickelodeon shows are represented here. Hey Arnold, Danny Phantom, SpongeBob, and lots more. I watched a lot of Nickelodeon as a kid, and rewatched some of these a lot later in my life. This is why this game is great for fans like me. I watched a whole bunch of random Nickelodeon shows and played their previous crossovers, so I was bound to know basically everyone pretty well. Here's a tier list on how much I watched each show, and how familiar I was with each character. Despite the abundance of Nickelodeon's 90s representation, there are still some characters that debuted in the late 2000s, like Lincoln and Korra. There are a few issues people have with this roster, one of which was the exclusion of all 4 Ninja Turtles. It probably felt like a slap in the face with 4 TMNT characters and all of them not being turtles. Honestly, I didn't really mind. The creators probably wanted to experiment by including a few oddball picks, such as April O'Neil and Powdered Toast Man. Another issue people had, or at least I think they did, was Garfield's inclusion. He's not really a Nickelodeon character and did not even debut there. Personally, I do not associate him with Nickelodeon, and my only exposure to him was The Garfield Show, which premiered on Cartoon Network. I guess it's fine since Nickelodeon owns his IP now, which I still don't remember when that happened. SpongeBob SquarePants, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Avatar The Last Airbender, The Loud House, and Ren and Stimpy are the only series that have multiple characters in this roster. I believe these choices make a lot of sense. SpongeBob SquarePants is Nickelodeon's mascot. TMNT has a backlog of episodes from a variety of editions that probably expand every other show in this game. Avatar's gotten the second life of popularity with the new audience, and The Loud House is Nickelodeon's new star. The only puzzling inclusion is Ren and Stimpy's second representative, Powdered Toast Man. But hey, it's like the inclusion of April. Perhaps the creators just wanted to experiment with the character they felt brought interesting gameplay to the table. Or they could just really like Ren and Stimpy and wanted to bring another character into the game just for that. I don't really mind because the roster could use an additional heavyweight. And besides, I heard that the developers had to fight to get characters such as Lucy, who happens to be my favorite sister from The Loud House, and Nigel Thornberry into the game. To me, Powdered Toast Man is the only weird pick, but 1 among the 25 is not bad at all. All of these series have multiple characters, but every choice makes sense for the most part, and does not bloat the roster. This roster is improved even more with the DLC characters. What I especially like is that each DLC character brought a previously unrepresented series into the roster. With this roster of 25 characters, there are 16 series represented. 17 if you consider The Legend of Korra separate from the Avatar The Last Airbender, which is about 60% of the roster. This roster includes the staples of Nickelodeon, key characters from its vast history, and a surprise inclusion here and there. It just needed 2 characters to be perfect, Timmy Turner and Plankton. Nickelodeon All Star Brawl's trailer showed a lot of promise for its gameplay. The movement and feel looked similar to that of Super Smash Bros. Melee or Project M. I was so excited for the game that I pre-ordered it and picked it up the day it was released. I could only say the same for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2. When I got my hands on it, the game played as fluidly as I like. Before I move forward, I want to preface this by saying that I'm speaking from the perspective of a casual player. I know there have been infinite combos that have been exploited, but I personally will never counter those because I've only played the game with my friends and family, none of whom are competitive or professional players. And due to this, I don't think I'm very qualified to speak on that front. The gameplay of Nickelodeon All Star Brawl was very similar to Project M, in my opinion. There are two key differences I found. Holding the joystick up does not make the character jump, like in Super Smash Bros. Jumping can only be done with the push of a button. I cannot tell you what button this is because I immediately configured my controls to be the same as Super Smash Bros. Thanks to that, adjusting to this game was easy. Unlike the Super Smash Bros. Series, the Nickelodeon All Star Brawl had a button for heavy attacks. Heavy attacks are really just charge attacks in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. This was my favorite button to use to knock my opponents off the stage. You can just hit them with standard attacks and finish them off with that. Instead of tossing enemies by grabbing them in Super Smash Bros., in Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, you can hold them up in the air. This always looks so silly to me. But this is on brand for Nickelodeon though, since their cartoons have a lot of slapstick violence. Admittedly, I barely played most of the characters on the roster. This changed as I recorded footage for this video. My main is Helga, just because Hey Arnold was my favorite Nickelodeon show and because I like her character. Her moveset just so happened to be fun for me. I also happen to play her well, commonly winning with her against my friends. I especially like her dash strong attack. It feels so satisfying when you're able to hit your opponents with both hits. It still feels so surreal that I can say that Helga, of all people, is my main in the fighting game. My second most played character is definitely Garfield because he is fun to play and has a lot of options. He can fight from up close or keep his distance with his pies. I especially like to spam his pies to combat one of my friends using Shredder to lure us to the top of the screen for easy kills. Now that I think about it, Helga also has a long-range weapon, her slingshot. I guess I really gravitated towards the long-range fighters by coincidence. Here are a few more honorable mentions of characters I like to play. The fighting was fun, but what is a platform fighter without its stages? The game included 25. There were a few stages that work for tournament play, and stages with elements. My favorite stage by far is Traffic Jam from Hey Arnold. This stage is packed with references from the show. When I first saw this stage, I definitely pointed out the buildings and characters to my friends as we played. Some examples include PS118, Eugene, Phoebe, and even Gerald Field. My least favorite stage is Space Madness from Ren and Stimpy. It is just so difficult to fight on it. It feels like you're spending more time jumping around than actually fighting. I can't deny how humorous this stage was the first few times I fought on it. This stage would be so much better if the objects did not dip when someone stood on it. This stage is good only as a rare treat, but it can get tiring pretty quickly. The development team definitely tried creating a variety of stages for competitive and casual players. As a casual player, I'm satisfied with this selection. The stages popped out even more with the music. I heard about people getting disappointed that music from the shows were not allowed to be used. Getting the rights to each track would probably be too expensive for the game's budget. Despite that, the music tracks they created sound like they come from each of their respective shows. Can anyone listen to the Ghost Stages music and tell me it doesn't sound like it was ripped from Danny Phantom? They also sound good, which is a plus. I even used hour-long versions of these tracks to get me through so many paper writing sessions. I'd rave about Traffic Jam's theme even more, but I spoke about Hey Arnold long enough. When Nickelodeon All Star Brawl first came out, the biggest criticism I saw was the lack of voice acting. Without it, the game felt a bit empty and soulless. I personally did not mind this, since the sound effects filled that void. Eventually, voice acting was added, with most of the voice actors reprising their roles. It was so surreal to hear Helga, Danny, and Garfield in the modern day. Now that they have been added, I cannot imagine the game without them.
Wait here. Yes. Wait here.
Oh, what a hit!
Another issue comes from Nintendo Switch version of the game. I assume many Super Smash Bros. Players have bought the Switch version as well. The problem I have is that after every match, or changing menus, you have to reconnect the controllers. It is not a big deal, but it breaks the flow of gameplay by having to do so every so often. While it took the development team a while to add voices, items, and additional pieces of content, these issues are not what I was referring to at the start of the video. The main thing missing from this game is the lack of unique interaction between characters. This is something I look for in any crossover I play. I believe the whole point of crossovers is seeing characters from different properties interact. This is why I like the Timmy Jimmy Power Hour and Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island, other than the gameplay of course. It's because we see Timmy and Jimmy interact with each other and their friends. And as for Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island, you can see the characters interact throughout the story mode. But what I think Nickelodeon All Star Brawl can do to include interaction does not require a story mode, but can utilize the game's arcade mode. Before every match, the character you're playing says some random line before the match begins. Instead, why not include a unique interaction with the character they are fighting? Maybe at least with just a few characters in the roster. Perhaps it could happen only with the final character you fight in arcade mode. Here's an example I saw online of an interaction between Helga and Lucy. I found this on a comment by Bonito Joe 111 under an hour-long version of Lucy's stage. And using voice lines from previous games, here's an interaction that I just came up with with two characters.
Look! A girl robot! So many tubes, so many machinery things! So cool.
Thanks! I even have sausage vision!
Looks like a Krabby Patty. Must stay focused.
Hey! Watch the hands!
I hope this gave you an idea of what I mean. Not only would interactions like these give us crumbs of these characters' meaning, but make this crossover shine even more. Since the developers were able to get the voice actors back, all these little scenes could have been voice acted. I hope the developers tried something like this in the next game's story mode, something I still have not checked out from the time I created this video. I also hope that it has a chart similar to the Super Smash Bros. Series where it lists how many times you played each character and other similar statistics. Nickelodeon All Star Brawl is a fun game with a lot of promise. It is a game that had a lot of passion poured into it. So much was done by the game's development team despite the low budget and little development time. At the end of the day, this is a game I will always go back to for a quick match or two. What do you think about what I discussed about Nickelodeon All Star Brawl? Did you like this game? Did you agree or disagree with what I had said? Let me know in the comments! And if you'd like to see more similar content, such as my discussion of the sequel, be sure to subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!